Hey everybody, what's going on? Hellmite here, bringing you another video from Grab the Lantern today. This is a little bit of an unusual video for me on today. Ordinarily, I would be doing the patch note rundown, but right now I did want to talk a little bit about Lillia, who has just been revealed today. Now, all of her information is in the clients, and Riot have released a couple of different articles talking about her development and her abilities. I will have those all linked down in the description below, so if you want to read it yourself, go ahead and check that out. I will be going through each of her abilities individually right here myself and talking a little bit about her thematics. So let's go ahead and start right off with things. First and foremost, Lillia's passive is called Dream Laden Bow. Her abilities apply Dream Dust, which deals a portion of the target's max health as magic damage over a duration. Now, remember that Lillia is supposed to be a jungler. Now, and also Riot did confirm in other sources, she is a ranged champion. She has a 350 range, I believe. So, as such, she's going to be slightly squishier because she is a ranged champion who's supposed to be in the jungle, which tends to have a habit of beating up ranged champions, especially in early stages of the game. Kindred have an entire mechanic devoted to healing them for that very reason, in that if they're supposed to be balanced as a ranged champion, so having lower defenses than melee champions, then they tend to get beaten up in the jungle where there's only so far away you can kite camps. Dream Laden Bow is very clearly designed to help Lillia clear through jungle camps by doing % max HP, so as long as she's hitting them with her abilities, they should be taking a bunch of damage over time just by existing, which gives Lillia plenty of time to then walk away from them and get damage by just kind of passively being there, which is nice. Dream Dust also does apply with her ultimate, so we'll talk about that when we get to the ult. But so far, I do like this. I think this is also a decent ability for Lillia to use against enemy champions. It gives her potentially use against enemy tanks. If the enemy team is going very tank heavy, this is potentially a look for Lillia to use. Lillia's Q is Blooming Blows. She swings her branch in the air, deals magic damage to nearby enemies, and enemies at the outer edge of the circle take true damage. After she lands the attack, she gets movement speed. Now, this is interesting to me because in my video yesterday, of course, I talked about how Lillia was likely to need some form of mobility as a skirmisher, but this is really it for Lillia. This is the only ability she has that even remotely gives her the chance to weave in and out of fights. So it does feel to me like this is the last ability Lillia wants to be using in a fight. She kind of wants to set up with her crowd control, then walk up, smack you with Blooming Blows, and try to run away afterwards using that bonus movement speed. The fact that you have to be in the outer edge for the true damage, and it looks like a fairly generous hitbox as well, so Lillia will potentially be getting a bunch of true damage off of this ability, which is pretty crazy, but again, she's supposed to be a skirmisher, so this will be a very risky play for her to go for if she's trying to get you in the very edge, and if she doesn't draw close enough, there's a chance that she whiffs entirely, whereas if she draws too close, not only will she miss the true damage, but now she's in the danger zone. So I do like where this ability is at. We'll have to look at cooldown. The AoE looks really large, and the fact that it does true damage means I would guess this is not a short cooldown ability, probably a first max, but we'll have to see where things are going to shape up once we have numbers. Lillia's W is called Watch Out, Eep. And I'm not adding that Eep, that's part of the ability name. So if you're going to call it specifically Lillia's W, it is Watch Out, Eep. Lillia winds up for a huge strike with her branch, deals magic damage to enemies. Enemies in the center take more damage. So again, this is sort of sweet spot skill shots. This one is a lot closer to a regular skill shot. I would guess that this deals more damage than Blooming Blows because it is there's a slightly more of a delay on it, and it is a skill shot, so Lillia has to actually position it properly if she wants to get the magic damage hit. Or she needs to put you to sleep, but we'll get to that here in a sec. She did have a sleep on the kit. Again, there's not a whole lot going on with this. It will be sort of your opener into jungle camps because you can line up the shot perfectly, but besides that, it's just going to do damage. It's part of her damage combo. Now onto the E, which is Swirl Seed. This is the ability that was revealed beforehand in the champion roadmap. If you remember that particular GIF, that is this ability. She lobs a Swirl Seed overhead, deals magic damage to enemies, and slows them for a duration. If she misses, it'll keep rolling until it hits an enemy or collides with terrain. So this is a global skill shot. It will travel until it hits something. So there is that, though I don't expect you to use this very often. There could be some fun applications if, let's say, you just finished Scuttle Crab and then you sent a Swirl Seed mid lane, and maybe your mid laner is able to chase the enemy champion into the Swirl Seed, and they get slowed and take damage, and you're able to clean up from there. There are some maybe fun applications to it. The skill shot is not particularly fast, but there are some applications I can see where it being global does have an effect. This is Lillia's set up, especially for ganks. She really needs to land this ability for the slow and applying her passive, so that way she can kind of walk up into the bash from Watch Out Eep into the Blooming Blows to either give her movement speed to continue chasing, or in order to back away from enemies in the middle of a fight. That's sort of her core play pattern I can see at this point. And remember, all of these are going to be applying Dream Dust, which causes enemies to take magic damage over time based on their maximum health. So that will cause Lillia to deal significantly more damage over time than you would expect. So it's not even necessarily a good idea for Lillia to hit all of her abilities in one go like an assassin would. It kind of makes sense for her to hit you with the slow, wait for the slow to maybe wear off, then whack you with Watch Out Eep, because that refreshes the duration on Dream Dust, causing you to take more damage, and then as that's wearing off, or maybe as the enemy champion's about to get out of range, then you use Blooming Blows in order to keep up with them, in order to keep hitting them with auto attacks, applying red buff, or just in order to get even more damage from Dream Dust down. Now, again, we don't have numbers. Dream Dust damage may be completely negligible, but I would doubt it because she needs some form of damage over time in order to kill jungle camps, especially tankier camps. So I would expect the damage to be relevant. So Lillia instead is more of a, I want to hit you with each of my abilities in sequence, and maybe not necessarily weave auto attacks, but if you think about that kind of a timing, I feel like that's more of how Lillia is going to want to be played. So I do quite like that. Lillia's ultimate, I think, is actually nuts. It's called Lilting Lullaby. She casts a lullaby over her enemies, and those affected by her Dream Dust become increasingly slowed before falling asleep for a duration of time. When awakened by damage, enemies will take magic damage. So, I did talk about this a little bit in my video yesterday, in that enemies, this is the drowsy into sleep effect, so that's clearly going to be how sleep works moving forward, is you become drowsy, which slows you, and then you fall asleep, which means you're basically stunned, and when you wake up, you take extra damage. That seems like just how sleep is going to work in the future if more champions get it. I don't know how Riot are going to get more champions with sleep in the game, but we have 2 already, so it stands to reason they could add some more. Now, the reason this is so strong is because all Lillia has to do is hit enemies, and then she presses R, and they all get slept. Now, the jury's out onto how big the range on this ability is. I would guess it's fairly localized, because the Dream Dust doesn't last that long. So if enemies are able to maybe dash or flash out of Lillia's range, they could potentially avoid being lullabied by her at a certain point. But it may be global. Again, jury's out. We don't have numbers quite yet. This is fairly strong because Lillia, it gives her a good amount of utility in a team fight. If she's enabled, so say your Malphite goes in with his ultimate, he sets up the team fight onto a couple members, and Lillia is able to walk up and just kind of whack him with Watch Out Eep. That applies Dream Dust, which means that now as they're trying to flash away or otherwise maneuver, if you press R, they're going to go drowsy, they're going to fall asleep, and your team is able to continue the initiation off the top of that. That's really good. It does mean, I think, Lillia's damage is going to be slightly lower than we would expect from a lot of other skirmishers, because she lacks the sort of steroids that someone like Yasuo or Riven has, where they can kind of press a button and do a bunch more damage over the duration of the fight. But this is so much utility that it does feel appropriate for Lillia to not have the ability to do as much damage, because she has more or less an on-demand sleep. And sleep is already a very powerful crowd control effect. I don't think I need to talk to you guys too much about that, knowing how Zoe has played with 1 sleep on the kit. So that's where we're at with Lillia's ultimate. I do think is quite good. Now, overall, this is a very interesting design for a skirmisher, like I've kind of been saying. A lot of this has to do with weaving out of the fight, sort of hitting a skill shot, letting Dream Dust tick, hitting your next skill shot, letting Dream Dust tick, but also trying to make sure that things play in with each other well enough that you're not missing opportunities. So yeah, if you land the Swirl Seed onto an enemy and they get slowed, you kind of want to wait for the ability to wear off so you can reapply Dream Dust, but if you wait too long, then it'll be harder to land your next abilities. They also play well together in different ways. I can see opportunities where Lillia lands the Swirl Seed, of course, first, but then walks up for a Blooming Blows, which gives her the bonus movement speed to make lining up the Watch Out Eep more effective. There are a couple different ways you could play around with this. Either way, I do think she's going to be very squishy. I think she's probably going to get a lot of value out of items like Lichbane because she will want to be auto-attacking, getting some kind of attack in the middle of her combo. So there is potential for her to do that. In general, she's probably going to itemize full glass cannon because you need to be able to do damage on this champion. She doesn't offer enough utility if you built her full tank. She'll probably be squishy in the jungle, trying to clear. I could definitely see that being a problem with her, but she is the kind of champion that will do lots of damage in team fights if you have someone to set her up. As with Master Yi, I don't think this is a champion that just kind of gets to run at enemies and just win every fight by default. You sort of want a structured engagement in order to make sure that the first champion the enemies are targeting is not the squishy damage dealer. So in general, I do quite like this. Now, her thematic is a little interesting. She's an Ionian fawn, basically. Her mom was married to Ivern, I guess, technically. Now, the God Willow of Ionia. We don't have the full lore yet, so I'm spitballing a lot of this, but the God Willow, which is now Ivern, because Ivern the Cruel cut it down before he became it, basically. This tree that Lillia's mom is kind of, it's weird. But this tree has existed for a long time, and it's more or less Lillia's parental figure. It's been slowly dying until Lillia has been bringing it people who are dreaming, and that seems to rejuvenate it. So Lillia is more or less collecting people from outside of her grove and sleeping them and bringing them back to the tree so it can sort of not consume their memories, because it doesn't seem like it's an evil thing, but kind of sort of take their memories in order to rejuvenate itself, or draw strength from their memories, or dreams, sorry. So in that regard, it's sort of interesting in that Lillia is being forced to wander out into the world to do things that are sort of at odds with her very careful personality, her very shy personality. If the name of her W didn't give you guys any hint, she definitely is not a people person. So I do think that's kind of interesting. It does feel very storytale. It feels very, very high fantasy, which is not something we have a lot of in League of Legends, but Lillia's design, as I kind of talked about yesterday, is very much so not par for the course for League of Legends. So I do think that's going to be quite interesting to see. I think I'm really excited to see how she's going to factor into the rest of the lore, and especially what kind of interaction she has with other champions. So we'll have to wait and see on that. I'll let you guys know as soon as that stuff goes live. Now, that's going to be it for me today, guys. Let me know what your thoughts are on Lillia down in the comment section below. Would love to hear it, especially if you play a lot of jungle. Let me know how you guys think this champion is going to be built, how this champion is going to be played. Would love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed today's video, go ahead and leave a like. And if you really enjoyed today's video, consider subscribing. I upload a video every Monday, Friday, and on patch days as well. I know this is a weird day for me, but I didn't want to miss out on the Lillia release. So this is a weird one. It may not happen again. You can count on Monday, Friday, and patch days. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it. And I'll talk to you all later.